Hey guys, we're live. Yeah, you always catch us in like, it's this is
Mid
what's upside,
conversation.
right? Mid conversation, but that's what it's all about because we're family, we're a community. So, first of all, I want to welcome everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful start of your weekend. Here, as you can see, beautiful, sunny Florida from where I am at. Hopefully, it's nice where you're at.
Not
And
really.
I said, I hope, I hope. Good morning to all of you. Today we have a very, very special show. Typically today we have Coffee and Dean with Lev and Dean.
Coffee and
Dean
Dean.
is Coffee and Dean, right? Dean is under the weather. He's not feeling well. So shout out to our brother. Let him get it feel better, and then he'll be back up fighting the fight. But today we have a major special. We have two incredible people here to join us, ZEV Shalev and Ellie Leonard. You guys know them all already. I mean, these are two of the best investigative journalists out there, especially when it comes to the Epstein stuff. I mean, nobody on Substack, nobody. I mean, these two, their eyes, I don't even know how they keep. We were just talking about that. Besides my son, Aaron, he's also on there right now, digging through, like, I'll say it like this: when the prosecutors said how much information, they called it a voluminous amount of information. And these guys have been going through really stuff to be able to bring it to you, give you the latest and the most important stuff, because what we're seeing is a cover up. What we're seeing is a major cover up. We've been talking about, if you read my Substack letter yesterday at night, at 10 o'clock at night, I got word that there's actually people in the DOJ, and that's why I wanted to speak to you, people in the DOJ that have told me that there's stuff missing. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to, in another batch or come there, but from what I was heard earlier, that there is some scrubbing and some going on, and also from watching the way Rokana keeps constantly saying, we are going to go after you and prosecute if you.
Sorry, that's going to go for a little bit now. I'm
Oh,
afraid
Time
I'll
for
silence
Zev.
myself.
silence it.
Time to
Yeah.
Zev to get out. Share
Yeah,
alarm.
to obstruct justice. But anyway, I want to welcome you guys. Zev is on mute right now. Ellie, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's
You
good to see you.
incredible work. Good to see you. Talk to us. Tell us what have give us the latest and the greatest updates before we get into what my sources are saying.
Lots of coffee. Lots of coffee. Thank you for all the people who've helped pay for coffee. So what I did first last night is I took all the files and I combined them into a PDF because they were individuals, and so they're kind of hard to scroll through because you have to open it up, close it, open it up, close it. So I combined them all so that I can just like scroll through. So if you guys want to use that, I have that. I can send you that link. Um, I think, a lot of it was furniture. A lot of it was like going through Jeffrey Epstein's house. And I have to say, for a guy that paid whatever he paid for that gigantic mansion, I wouldn't live there. That was an ugly, ugly house. It looked like a bad hotel or like a dorm in a community college. It was pretty bad on the inside. And again, there's lots of redactions. Obviously, we don't know who the masseuses are. Um, I did enjoy like something that I do, and I think, and because you were saying like Aaron's a speed reader. I think something that we have in our families, we have a little bit of a photographic memory. So like I'll see something and I'll remember something from something else. So I've really enjoyed seeing pictures and then remembering quotes that people said that totally lied about what I'm now seeing in this picture. So I'll go back and I'll link up a quote with a picture like you
Amazing.
know, like Ehud Brock saying that he was never around the women, and now we have like a document that shows him staying in the apartment with the four women. Like that stuff's fun for me. I like proving people wrong in that way. Something that was really lovely last night is they brought out the documents of Maria Farmer's case that proved that she had reported to the FBI. And I was in a thread last night, a text thread with her, with Virginia's brother, with his wife, with her lawyer. And it was just such a beautiful celebration. Like they were just so ecstatic and over the moon from like this one document that was in there. Because everything's redacted, but that one document was not redacted. And they were just, I mean, it was just such a point of validation
Wow.
for all of them. And
Wow.
they, like tears and joy. And so that was really cool to be a part of. I kind of just like sat back and witnessed and just
Oh
let
man,
people
that's
chat.
amazing, Ellie.
So that
That's
was really, really
amazing.
cool. And then yeah, just going through, we're finding, I think Zeph and I are finding some little tidbits that we'll probably dig into later. But there's always something when you have these documents and people say, oh man, they're redacted, or oh, it's just not much. They left so much out. There's always something because the people who dumped the documents are not as thorough as the people who are digging through the documents. And so they miss
Oh
stuff
man.
and they think that they've redacted stuff and they haven't redacted everything. And so there's definitely some good stuff in there.
Oh my God. And God bless you. Also, I was like with Zeb before I give it to you, Zeb. We were talking about yesterday. The other thing some of my sources have been telling me, and that's why I agree with you. We have to look through it thoroughly. And that's why you guys are incredible, is because this is the time where they try to sneak some stuff in there. Because remember, they're not
Yeah.
giving you, because this is not the way the FBI or the DOJ works. It's all outlined. They have everything, document everything.
Right.
Because remember, these people were going to trial. People got convicted. So there's if this is a dump. This is basically here's a dump, and try to find the needle in the haystack. And
Right.
when
And
that
it's a lot of like when they have a desk
moving
or a
parts,
box
correct?
or a list or like a
Exactly.
binder, zooming in and seeing what's written on those things, because that's where you find the interesting stuff. You see like the binders of all, all those black binders up in the
Yeah,
closet, and then you go, huh, that looks like a list of clients, or that looks like
and
a
you see
list of victims. Like it's like 12 big black binders of
yeah,
people up in a closet. So it's like that stuff is the stuff you have to zoom in and look at and then kind of skim past the ugly, ugly art and like the poor stuffed poodle and like just the hanging bride over the stairs and just the things that are very distracting, and start to look
very
at some of the
disturbing. Yeah.
really specific details. I'm really excited to look, and I haven't gotten this far. I went through 2,000 of the pictures, so the first two big files. But I'm hoping there's the Palm Beach house pictures in there, and I don't know if there is or not, but that's what I'm really curious to see.
I haven't seen the Palm Beach house actually, but I've only gone through a similar amount the first batch.
Yeah.
What you're saying about Maria Farmer, by the way, is so fantastic because she's been looking for this vindication. She's been telling her story for so long. People have not believed her. People have criticized her. And this report coming out is just so lovely because it vindicates who she is. And there's more in it. I think I found a couple of other pieces in the files yesterday that might be related to Maria. So, that is important that some of these victims are getting vindication, but so many people are not. So many of the victims are not getting information about their cases, and that's a real problem. I should say survivors, not victims.
Right.
But in terms of what's really missing, I love this what you're saying about what's missing, Ellie, because we know a lot about these cases. We've been looking at this for a very long time. So when we see things and they show up, it's like, oh, I know what that is. That belongs in here in this series, in this timeline. And there's been a few instances like that. I know this morning there was two photos of Donald Trump that actually sneaked through. Apparently, I haven't seen the files myself, but according to some media reports, there were two photos on Jeffrey Epstein's background where there are two Donald Trump photos in there.
Yep.
So Donald Trump was actually in those files, but then subsequently, I'm told, they were removed. Those photos have been removed. So just
I saved them. If you need them, I saved them to my computer.
Yeah, I have them too. Yeah, but I mean, what it tells you is.
So wait a second. Well, I'm sorry, Zeb. So you said to me I'm sorry. So they put out in the first batch. I mean, in the batch they put them out, and then they redacted them right after last night and took them out. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. I've got a fire alarm going on, so I can't answer that. But yes, in essence, that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
They proved their own cover-up in real time.
What I saw. So there's, he has these random photos, because he loves to people collect. So he has all these framed photos everywhere, all over his house of him and the Pope and Clinton and all these people. But there was one stack where there was like a picture upwards and a picture flipped on its back. And it was one of him and Donald Trump. And then it was one of Donald Trump with a bunch of women in bikinis. And it was like kind of laying down. So I zoomed in on it and I shrink wrapped it. I saved it and I upgraded it. And so, I've got that picture. He can't get rid of it now.
Oh, yes.
That stuff is so significant. You got the Justice Department actively involved in covering up the president's involvement in a human trafficking operation and, God knows what else. Because I was also really intrigued by the Bear Stearns subpoenas that happened so far back. In 2003, they were subpoenaing Bear Stearns. Well, that's interesting. Why were they doing that? It builds into this idea that there was a money laundering investigation at the same time as there was a human trafficking investigation, which we know is in fact the case now. And that leads me to a whole lot of questions about why that was never pursued and why was it never made public until recently through Bloomberg News. So there's a lot of questions around the money and the financial crimes and what they were doing other than the human trafficking, which I think we can see signs of. Although it's not clearly laid out because they've redacted so much, but it's in there, which is good news.
Go ahead. No.
No, I was just gonna say, I thought when we pulled out this stuff, I thought it would be less clear. I thought Epstein and his cohorts they would clean up after themselves a little better. But really, when you see these pictures, like I was zooming in and then like doing screenshots and then
Yeah.
Google photo searches of like, what is this? Oh, that's some sort of weird sexual apparatus that I've never heard of in my life, and like drawers full of things and like cosplaying costumes, and like he had a house full of this stuff. Like this was his whole life, and I didn't think it would be that obvious, but it was wild.
There are
Well,
text
this is
messages in here, by the way. Sorry if I just let me
yeah.
throw
No,
it.
go ahead.
This
Go
is
ahead. Go
interesting.
ahead. Yeah.
There's some text
Yeah. Go ahead.
messages where they're actually talking about the human trafficking. They're talking about these girls that want to come to work. It's all these euphemisms, but we know what they're meaning. And this is
Yeah.
them basically trading business favors in one case, as far as I understood it,
Mhm.
for a young girl. I mean, that's what it felt like in
Yeah,
that
like a
one case.
Swedish, do you want a
Yeah.
Swedish woman? That kind of
Well,
thing.
well, and I'll tell you guys, I mean, I lived in that world around all of
Mhm.
these people, and that was the environment. I mean, and this is why I think a lot of people, and that's why your great investigative work is so important, because there's two very important things. And that's why people say, well, how come they didn't get charged, like because they were doing these sex trafficking thing? Because a lot of this was these are pedophiles. They were not doing it for a business. This was not a business when you think of girls being sex trafficked, and Epstein wasn't making money by bringing these girls over, selling them. I mean, we don't know. I mean, let me
He was
rephrase
making
myself.
some money, I think, for the some.
Let me reframe myself, because I don't know. Ellie, I'm going to take it back. I'm going to take it. I mean, that would be. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm saying to you, these people lived that life. I mean, they wanted to. They upped each other. It was like
Yeah.
trophies. These women were trophies. They used them as tools. They used them. Yes, they abused them. They sex trafficked. But in their cabal, that were also involved. They were doing some incredible, powerful financial crimes that
Yeah.
shook the way. And that's why I think why it gets lost in the shuffle so much, because we're trying to see why are these people being prosecuted on the pedophilia? Why are they being prosecuted on all of this? And because of that, we're like, and that's why thank God ZEV keeps putting it. You guys keep. Ellie, keep pressing it, because
Mhm.
it's more because of financial crimes lead more to international, basically espionage. I mean,
Yeah.
this is not an American problem. This is a world. What we see are playing out today in Russia and Ukraine. What we're seeing being played in the Middle East and other places in the world is still coming off a certain stuff that was put in place. I mean, just think about during 2017 and 18, while Trump is already president, right before he's about to go to Helsinki to meet with Vladimir Putin, you're seeing these conversations between Epstein about Viktor Churkin. Me and Zev also spoke on our other show, which was very interesting, that I didn't even know that Trump was very close to Viktor Churkin. So now there is no such thing as a coincidence that Viktor Churkin, such a powerful asset in the Russian organization and so close to Putin, that was so close to both Putin, Trump and Epstein for so many years, in and especially during that time period. I wouldn't be surprised if Viktor Churkin participated in these parties and events to be able to be there and have and even help facilitate visas to some, because you're seeing a lot of the other thing you're seeing is a lot of the girls that were brought in were from Eastern European countries,
Right.
like Russia, Ukraine, Czech, and that's also where Melania is from. And she came in during that time period. She came
Right.
through Europe through the modeling agency.
It was the same cookie cutter.
The same cookie cutter,
Yes.
exactly. Just like and that's why, like, I've been hearing rumbling. I can't say that's why I'm not gonna. It's not breaking news. We're not fact, but I have been hearing rumbling that another part, because people say, why is Donald Trump doing this? Well, it's not one reason why Donald Trump. That's why I want to try and make it very clear. There's a bunch of reasons why Donald Trump is doing it, and some of them personal, happen to be like his, where he's trying to make sure that scrub himself completely off the face of the earth. I mean, just think about it. This is what we sometimes talk about. So we talk about what we saw, but I always say it's what you don't see is more important. So what happens behind the scenes? The fact that you did not see a bunch of Donald Trump pictures in there. I mean, if they were smart enough, if they were smart, they would have at least thought, because we already know, at least make it look.
Right.
But the
It was
fact that
pretty expected what we got.
Right, but the fact that they scrubbed it and gave us what we expected, knowing that they're
Right.
going to do something is
Right.
insane. That's what I can say. I mean, be creative a little bit already. Like,
No, yeah.
you
Well, I
throw a
mean,
wrench in.
Michael Cohen for that, what that conversation was the other day, he called it for what we were going to get in this first batch was going to be, it was going to be all the people that Trump doesn't like were going to be the people who showed up in the files in this first batch, and that's what we got.
I think it's also, Lev, this is so important in terms of the work that you've done before. You've got a massive disinformation campaign happening right now with these Epstein documents. I mean, they're basically created a narrative that they want to push out. They're not just doing it by releasing these documents. Online, if you've been on X or any of these other places, there is a lot of disinformation, Russian-produced disinformation that's pushing the blame on all of this on Bill Clinton and on and on Israel alone. Where we know that it's not just Israel alone, it's Israel and Russia's a big player here. $1.1 billion we know came from Russia through this Epstein network. So that's a lot of money. That's where the real money came.
But
and
that's
you're
what
not
I'm
seeing
saying.
that. Yeah.
We're not, and that's what I'm saying. I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to say to you, have you or Ellie seen one thing in this dump linking to Russia?
No. And that's the thing. That's why I'm just saying this is a Russian disinformation campaign. And what the Russians have done is basically seized the Department of Justice. I don't know how they've, gotten permission to do this or how, but they've basically got people in there that are propagandists, and they've created a narrative that they want to put out. They've missed some things.
I've got sirens in the background now too. What's going on?
They don't, it says this is what MAGA does. They have eyes all over the place.
Fire brigade.
They don't want us coming out telling the truth. They're throwing everything at it. They're trying to get ZEV. They try to shut him up.
It's occurred to me before that would happens, and I think it's happened before that I've been on a show with the alarms.
Yeah,
suddenly
all the alarms start going off.
So interesting, but I mean, could be anything. Of course. But the disinformation thing is an issue. I think you don't often, we don't realize how much psyoping there is going on and how much of a push there is to make us believe certain narratives. But this isn't Donald Trump hiding himself. This is the Russians hiding themselves in a big way. They are hiding the 25 people or 20 people that are named in here who were involved with young girls or raped young girls, where they're hiding an enormous amount of other crime and criminal activity, and they're trying to make it all seem like Bill Clinton. It's not going to fly. I think Americans are too smart for it. But this is a cover-up of massive proportions, but it's also a psyop. It's also a disinformation campaign.
Oh,
well, if we get the Russian stuff, that'll be the very, 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 very last batch, and it will be all black. It'll look like the Mrs. page.
I would be surprised we get anything to Russia, because just think of it. I mean, use common sense. I mean, this was we have little bits and pieces that we know that Trump has ties to Russia. We know that Epstein had ties to Russia. Mm-hmm. We've seen that a lot of these young girls that were their passports, I mean, are from Russia, Ukraine, and back then it was the Soviet Union still. So even these Ukrainians, it was just the end. So this was still the Eastern Bloc, Czechoslovakia, Slovenia, all of these countries. It was still hardcore controlled by those KGB and those sources. And these girls were being sent here, and they were being sent here. And this is what I want to make it very clear. Like, they weren't being sent here to some like criminal guy. Epstein was dealing with Viktor Churkin at the same time. So when they were getting visas, like what I'm saying to you is, I know how things work. When you're on that level, when you're dealing with these type of people. So for instance, I'll give you an example. Like, somebody would give me a call when I was close with Donald Trump, very prominent, let's say, a donor or somebody, and say, I have a friend in Ukraine, and she has a problem getting over here, and she really needs help. Is there anybody I could call in the State Department to see if they could help her with her visa? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And
this is actually,
I know a guy.
I know a guy that knows a guy, and I could tell you, this actually happens. It happens,
and this is confirmed. I mean, I can tell you that Epstein knew this deputy.
Yes, I can confirm it also.
Yeah, I'm saying it to you, but I mean, in terms of Epstein as well. Like, Epstein knew a guy who was a deputy in the Putin government, a deputy minister, and he got O1 visa applications through by getting this guy to say, this person, this model X, is a very intelligent person or a very beautiful person and of world standing, and she knows me, therefore you should give her the visa. So you got a Russian Kremlin minister basically signing off and helping their spies in 2 cases. We know that there were spies that were sent to the United States under the cover of being a model. But they were really, they were
and
really
and,
intelligence
and that
assets,
and
agents.
that's the bigger story that nobody. So that's why as I spoke to you, Ellie, and me and Zev have spoken to her, that's what I'm working on really, because I think there's a huge story about why we're not seeing any of the Russia, why we're not hearing any of the oligarchs, because just it's impossible. Like none of these,
Right.
because there was so many of these players that were like literally in bed with them, and you're seeing the girls, but you're not seeing the people behind the men that were actually dealing these
Right.
transactions. So I think and I think it's so big that I think some of these spies, and I will call them spies because we saw Maria Bertona. What you see, it happens.
Yeah.
It's real. This is real life. There are all over the world. I truly believe some of them are still right now married to
Oh,
some of
yeah.
Trump's inner circle. Some of them are girlfriends. Some of them are mistresses for many years, 20, 30
Hmm.
years, mistresses of some of these
This
guys
didn't
that are
stop with Epstein. They weren't like, oh, they caught him.
no,
Let's quit
no,
doing this
no.
stuff, guys.
That it's a major,
Yeah.
and that's why I keep going back to those words that Marjorie Taylor Greene said. I hate her voice; I can't stand. But when she sat there interview trying to make herself look holier than holy, she said, "Well, when I called Donald Trump and I told him, why are release the Epstein files? What do you?" And he said, "Marge, lay off of them. This is it's going to hurt a lot of good people." I'm saying to you, I was like,
That's exactly
"Lord."
right. There's other thing. There's a lot of stuff missing here. Obviously, they gave us like 3 or 4 gigabytes of content, not the 300 gigabytes. I was trying to
Hmm.
figure out what the rest of this is. The rest of it is video. To get to 300 gigabytes, you need that's video is much more consuming of data. So there is a lot of video that's missing. I estimate between 1,000 to 3,000 bits of video that have not been released. We're talking about surveillance video of these properties. We're
Right.
talking about the files themselves. You see that there's evidence where they've got CDs docked
Hmm.
as evidence, but what's on those CDs? There are videos on those CDs, and we're not getting to see those. And that's breaking the law, of course. The
Well,
transparency law said they had to release everything. They haven't released everything. And this is what we should be calling for, is the videos. I mean, that's where the real evidence is going to
right.
be.
Well, I was going to say that just kind of going back to some of the more personal issues of Epstein. When we listen to Ghislaine Maxwell's interviews, she has sworn up and down that there were no cameras and videos except for in Palm Beach because somebody was stealing money, so that the police department put in a camera. Well, in Virginia's book, she swore, she goes, no, there's a surveillance room filled with screens. Well, guess what we got to see in these pictures? We saw the surveillance room filled with screens. So it's very validating that the things in her book are documented
Incredible,
and
yeah.
true, because then that pretty much documents and clarifies most of the things that she's been saying, because they keep popping up as true.
Right.
So her story becomes more and more and more and more valid. So you have to look at the whole story all of a
I,
sudden in
I,
that case.
I'll tell you, as somebody that also not in front, and I'm not in no way trying to compare our positions, but somebody
Hmm.
also that had to prove my truth against some of the same powerful people. And I also remember getting the validation of, like, when I came out on Rachel Maddow and said Trump knew about what we're doing in Ukraine,
Right.
and everybody was like, "Oh no," and I said, "No, Bill Barr was involved," and everybody's, "No, oh, Bill Barr, Lev, you're a criminal. Don't listen to this guy. He's a Russian mobster. He's trying what's it called?" And then 2 years later, when Bill Barr came out and Trump gets impeached and everything, I cried. I remember sitting with my family
Right.
because the validation. So I can't imagine what the family. That's why
Yeah.
I'm saying to you for what they're going through, because it's the fact that it's bad enough that the actual act happens to you.
Right.
But it's even that's why I sometimes say the cover up's worse than the crime, because
Uh,
the crime is
no
bad
one
enough, but
believes you.
the fact that you have to then go prove yourself, the fact
Yeah.
that you have to then go, and then what happened to her, it's still
Oh
I
yeah.
can't,
Yeah.
she,
I mean, it's
you
not
know,
new. It's not new that survivors and victims have to prove their case and not the perpetrators. I mean,
it's
it's supposed to be
yes, The other way around.
Which yeah, it's supposed to be the other way around. So I think yesterday was an incredibly good day for her family, for
Yeah.
sure.
So
And that's why,
powerful
yeah,
what you
go.
guys are
Yeah.
talking about there, and your Lev, your story where you're talking about fighting this machine that was telling you that what you went through isn't true, isn't accurate, that your experiences aren't right, and you are. I mean, that's
They called guys, Zev, you don't even know. I'll tell you a little story. When I first they threw me into prison, when they arrested me under espionage charges. So I wasn't able to see nobody, nothing. Like literally, I couldn't even call my wife. During this time period, this week, they were calling Rudy Giuliani and Victoria Tunzing would be calling my wife to give her updates. My wife, because they thought they were my family, that they're taking care of me. They were telling my wife, they said, be very careful what Lev might tell you because we hear that he had a psychological experience in prison,
Oh
and
wow.
he's saying things that are just not true.
Ugh,
Because what happened what is I got into a fight with my attorneys who were Trump's attorneys at the time, and I fired them when they came in there to tell me to shut up and get in line and follow up, and I got rid of them. And because of that, my wife didn't even know that I got rid of my attorneys. Nobody knew what was going on, but they knew. So that's why they were trying to say that he got rid of the attorneys. Lev is going crazy. I think solitary confinement for 2 weeks got to him. So because when I got out, you don't even know. I had to literally to my son Aaron, my wife, my sister, like they literally thought some of the stuff because they couldn't believe I knew and I
they were
was involved.
gaslit.
And yeah, that and my own lawyer, I remember sitting with my lawyer telling him these things. Like he would sit there and say to me, "Lev, you have to be very careful. Don't say these things because if you're exaggerating, they're going to check everything out." And I would cry. I would be like, "What are you saying?" And the sad part was the reason I couldn't prove what I was saying is because they took all my phones, all my evidence. They tried to put it under seal. So I couldn't prove myself, because all the evidence was in my stuff. So I was just going off of words. So when I did the Rachel Maddow interview, and I really said, you know what, I'm just going to tell the truth on everything, and I don't care where I tell you, the Southern District, literally right after that, they said, okay, we'll come to it. Till then, they wouldn't even sit down and talk to me.
Wow.
For 3 months, like their doors are open. So, and that was the Bill Barr Southern District at the time, being run to run cover for Donald Trump. So I know how they work, and I know how they do things inside, and that's why, even these little wins are such huge to them.
Yep,
At least, I mean, God bless, thank God that at least that happened to her because God bless,
yep.
because that's huge,
Yeah.
because
Too
all
big
that
for her
stuff, and
family, for sure.
that validation, and to all the survivors, because that single validation just shows more of the cover up. Just shows, like yesterday, I was on with Joy Reid with what's her name? Marina Lacenda, Marina Lacenda, one of the survivors also. And hearing her story, she was, I think, survivor number one or something.
Mhm.
And also, like, she was saying yesterday, she's saying, yes, we're disappointed that they didn't come out, that everything didn't come out. But some of the stuff, the validation, like the 96 report showing that there was an actual, they knew going back to all the way to
Right,
96 and all of that, so as bad as the cover up is, the good thing is we know it. The people
right,
are knowing, and thanks to people like you, thanks to us that we've lived in and we're able to expose them, that we're not gonna. And in my Substack letter I wrote yesterday, I said Congress might have gone on vacation, Donald Trump might have gone on vacation, but we're not going on vacation. We're never gonna stop. The survivors don't get a vacation, so they
right.
don't. So we're gonna keep our voices loud. We're gonna keep pushing. And the one thing that right now I think that matters most is I've been hearing. I think my son also reported on it today. I didn't even get a chance to speak to him, but there's impeachment. I definitely spoke to some Congress people, and they were planning on putting impeachment against Bondi and
Yeah,
Patel and others. And right now, I want to make it very clear with every single person watching, and when you send it out, we're going to send it out to all of our communities, is you better get on the phones, email every single Republican, because we need a bipartisan. We can't wait till midterms. We need impeachments right now. We need answers right now. We need to stop them before they're able to scrub and get rid of a lot of other things, because that's what's actually happening. While they think we're on vacation, we need to go to work, and we need to make our voices louder and stronger than ever before to make sure sure that come January, when January 5th, when he gets Congress in session, the first thing that should be
Right.
talked about is filing impeachment, taking a vote, and have somebody just said that Aaron reported that they are impeaching Bondi. Perfect. You see, it's happening. So right now, while they're playing golf, while they're on vacation, we need to take it, and make our voices heard and get because look, I'm already hearing that there's going to be an exodus in the Republican in Congress come January. We have we got people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Let's use her for, let's not support her, but let's use her. Let's use them for what sometimes a friend of your enemy is a friend of mine for that moment. You know what I'm
Sure.
saying to you?
We'll see.
You know what I'm saying?
That's really smart. The impeachment thing is really smart,
Mhm.
and just taking action in the way you're saying about highlighting this. I just think that Virginia Giuffre's story is so it's so remarkable that she put out the book posthumously, that she wrote this book, that her family continue to support her in the way they have, because in there is so much of the evidence we're looking for that's matching up into this in these documents, and so that kind of vindication is amazing, and it's not in a nice way, but there's something beautiful about it. Her
Yeah.
voice speaking from the grave in the way that she is, and still fighting the fight against these people who did these terrible things to her. So I think that's important. The Bondi thing, that is so good, and they need to impeach them. And I think they need to make sure that there is an opportunity here to also impeach the Speaker of the House and the Republican Party in general. I think I think what Democrats need to do is seize this opportunity to really look at who is doing all of this. Russia has influenced everything in our political system to a huge extent, and it includes the Republican Party. It includes what's going on right now in the Department of Justice. It's including our presidency. We have to take a firm stand and start taking back power for Americans. This is an American. This is a breach of American independence that's been going on. And I just think that, to your point, Lev, the work you've been doing is so important to get people involved in actually understanding who the enemy is, what we're dealing with in terms of a foreign context, and fighting back on it. And also, Ellie, your work has been stunning. I'm so impressed by everything you're putting together. And we chatted late last night about a bunch of things. And you were so dogged, and Ellie's going through every single thing by herself. She's also a great typist, so she's transcribing everything, which is a way of digesting this material in a way that's just remarkable. And everyone needs to follow both of these people, Lev and Ellie. Just
all three of us right
now.
What they need to do is, everybody, the routine. If you're new, I'm going to tell you, those that have, you go up there, there's a Chiron, you hit it up there on the top, it says all our names, and right there you subscribe. Subscriptions are for free, folks. So the first things you make sure is subscribe to all of them, because the information we're giving is incredible. Becoming a paid subscriber is extremely important, because we are independent. We don't have oligarchs. We don't have big media sponsors. That's why we're able to give you the work we're doing, because we're not relying to nobody except for you, the people. So, and we understand, and we don't want to put pressure on any for those that can't afford it. Those that can't, just be subscribers and spread the message. Everybody could do something. But those of you that can become subscribers and paid subscribers, you're helping us move the movement for those that can't, and for everybody to get the information. But before I know, Ellie, you gotta go, and Zev, you gotta run also. I want to give to all the subscribers a little also inside breaking type of information, what wasn't in the files, from my personal life experience, and some of the time I'm working on, and we're going to work on. And folks, stay tuned this. So in the 1990s, for those of you that saw my from Russia with Lev a documentary by Rachel Maddow, I worked as a young boy. I worked for the Russian organized crime in New York City, and the Russian organized crime at 89, 90, and 90. One of the things they did, they sent me to Russia when it was still the Soviet Union. I was there during the fall of the Soviet Union. I was the middleman between all of them coming here. I actually all the hockey players, I gave them the L1 visas. I was a 19-year-old that had a corporation. I was the president. They made me the president. I was the one. I was clean cut. I had an American visa. So I know a lot of stuff that was going on in that time period. And one thing that was going on that I was a witness to, and that's what I'm working on, and what is not in any of these files, is I know for a fact that people like Epstein were visited Donald Trump in his casinos in the 1990s, and a lot of their in Taj Mahal. And I know that for a fact because back then there was a major influence coming in from the Russian community where Donald Trump also made a lot of money. Was not only selling his apartments, he used to hold concerts and bring Russian top celebrities. Like he would do boxing events. He would bring all these top Russian performers and have these events in Taj Mahal and Trump World or whatever it was called in Atlantic City, and they would bus all these Russians. And I know for a fact that the criminal element at the time was sending in a lot of these honeypot girls, spies, and all you call it, to intertwine with a lot of this. And there was a lot, I'm just giving you guys a 30,000 feed.
There's a Jeffrey Epstein Donald Trump interaction. I'm going to go find it where they talk about that. Actually, we're at the casinos, and they're talking about the girls that are there. That's really interesting what you're saying.
That's why I need you guys. I need your help also to start looking into the 90s, casinos, Russians, what's it called? Because I'm working on a lot of that, and we're going to try, because I'm telling you, it's all going to go back to Vladimir Putin when this thing hits, and that's one of his biggest fears, because people are going to realize why he is really Vladimir Putin's.
That's the number one reason why he's not releasing those files.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's to save Putin, not to save Trump. Actually, that's the real reason.
Exactly.
That's the point.
Guys, thank you so much for having me. Can you shamelessly, like one of our close friends, Waj, says, I already learned it from shamelessly promote yourself. because I'm going to do it for you anyway. But go ahead, Ellie. Tell everybody where they can follow you, Zev. Yeah.
Okay, so I am on Substack at The Panicked Writer. You can find me everywhere else on most social media platforms at Red Pencil Script. That's my side hustle where I do transcripts for films and journalism. But I'm mainly on Substack, so you can find me here.
Awesome, Zev.
And, Ellie's often on Narrative, which is great, which is my thing. It is narrative.org, NARATIV.org. You'll find my Greatest Heist series there. There's 2 books in the Greatest Heist. The first one explores the stuff we've been talking about, the early years between Trump and Epstein, and how Russia sort of swept them up in a network. Now we're getting even more information that's validating all that content. And then the new book is all about 2008 and how at least Jeffrey Epstein was very involved in the collapse of the 2008 market, which took so many millions of dollars, trillions even, out of the U.S. economy. And we're going to unpack exactly how they did that with Bear Stearns. And it's in chapter 5. Chapter 6 is coming out soon. And I really, it's a good read. Everyone should read it. So that's my stuff.
Good.
And I'll commend both of you guys. You guys should both get as much subscriptions as possible. Ellie just finished a full-time job, so she's now fully independent. So welcome to the independent world. She definitely needs your support. Give her a paid subscription.
Hoping I get at least 7 hours of sleep now a night, now that I only work one job.
Let's go, Substack family. And if we don't see you, hopefully we will see you. We probably will see you because the news doesn't stop. But just in case, for those that might be going on vacation and might not be here, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy Kwanzaa, anything you celebrate. We love you, we care, and God bless you. Thank you for all the support you guys give us. And before I go, just quickly, I know we do have a GoFundMe set up. This GoFundMe is set up for us to be able to go out there. There's 2 things that happen quickly. We have a volunteer group set up. That's at levpttp.proton.me. That's for volunteers that want to help join us. Send us an email. Tell us what you could do. A lot of you all over the world. We have over 100 and something people already joined. You have incredible professions there, people that want to help save our democracy part-time. And we also have a movement where we're trying to hire professionals to set up of the machine so I could go out there with the help of people like Ellie, people like Zev, behind the scenes giving me help with the investigative work so I could go out there and really do the one thing that I pledge to each and every one is I help build Mega, and I swear to you, I will do everything in my power to take Mega apart piece by piece by piece. So with
Amazing.
that, have a wonderful weekend, guys.
Yeah, you guys have
And
a good
Ellie,
weekend.
you to take care, Zev. Take care,
Cheers,
guys.
everybody.
guys.
Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.